we can, just to let y'all know. Uh, Welcome to Agree to Disagree, where we talk about everything and almost everything. Okay, Wakanda forever, as somebody wants me to do. This week, what are we talking about this week?
Black mental health again. You got that.
I say niggas are crazy, so we want to
Wow.
talk about how crazy they are.
That went sideways real quick.
Okay. Yeah, they say we crazy. Sometimes we're not. It's just that we just see things differently, and we like to express ourselves how we different. So here we go. What does everybody got to say?
All right, so just like last week, man, I'm gonna kind of moderate this thing to try to get us to a good point. This session 3, so we're gonna really wrap this black mental health thing up, and we're gonna try to get it to a good point. I'm a foreshadow something. So Kemp, before we get off, it's gonna be something special for you. So just ride the wave today. Everybody just kind of follow the path, man, because we got somewhere we got to get to, and I'm gonna make sure we get to it. So as we start this whole situation on today, I really want to start with good versus bad therapy, right? We talk so much about therapy. We talk about how Black folk need to go see a therapist and all the other crazy stuff. But what's good about it? What's bad about it? Let's really start there. So Toya or Rich, whichever one of y'all want to like kind of jump in first, and let's kind of start there.
So being prepared for this conversation, I wrote a little list, very short, about what a good therapist is or what a good therapist does. So the first thing I have is that a good therapist provides validation. You're going to therapy to be heard, right? And you're going to therapy for that feeling that you have to be acknowledged. Your therapist doesn't have to agree with you, but your therapist has to hear you. So a good therapist, one, provides validation. Second, a good therapist provides options. And what I mean by that is you're not necessarily counting on your therapist to provide the solution for you, but to give you some options to consider. The third thing that I have is your therapist, if it's a good therapist, is going to understand two things, and that's your need to explain and your need to be understood. Some people thrive off of explaining. Like, let's say something happened to me. I don't want you to tell me your perception of what happened. I want you to allow me to explain exactly what it is that happened. Other people thrive off the feeling of being understood, in the sense of if something was to happen and they share exactly what that was, they like to have that feedback of what that person thinks about it. The next thing, a good therapist examines from multiple angles. So your good therapist is going to take your point of view into consideration, their professional experience into consideration, and the outside angle as well into consideration. And very last, but not least, and this is honestly the most important thing, a good therapist builds rapport, and a good therapist develops a partnership with you as their client. I know that was a mouthful. I had a list.
No, I like it. I like that. I like that a lot.
I definitely agree with Latoya. I would add to her list, though, a good therapist will also allow you to navigate the entire session and your relationship with them. I know there's been several times when I'm in a session with someone and I would have something planned for them, but they'll get in and we'll start talking, and then we get into that subject. And instead of me bogarting the conversation and saying, wait, we have this to do, I go with the client to wherever they want to go to help them resolve that, because apparently that's the most pressing thing in their life at that moment. So a therapist would never push you to follow their lead. They'll allow you to take the lead.
You're on mute. JT, you're on mute, bro.
Oh man, look, listen, I was about to go in. I'm like, what the hell? Let me make sure that everybody really catches it. So we're talking about good rapport, good relationship. We're talking about partnership and collaboration. I also got validation, and I want to add affirmation in there as well, because we need to make sure that we reinforce behaviors. And then I like what Tori said: the need to explain versus the need to be understood. So that goes also along the lines of the therapist being competent and making sure, adding this in too, making sure that they allow and add in different and varying perspectives. So not being one-sided or, you know, this one-size-fit-all kind of thing. So those of us that have been in therapy, Kemp, I'm gonna start with you. Is your therapist a good therapist or is there a bad therapist?
My therapist is a good therapist. For me, he challenges me and kind of like makes me think. He makes me think differently. Like it's not an option because I get like a one-track mind and this is what I'm going to do. You know, right, wrong, good, bad, or ugly. But he's like, no, you're gonna think about this because you have all of this to consider. What if this person didn't mean like this? What if you didn't mean what you did like this? What if like try to like, well, exactly that. He's and he listens with the list that y'all were explaining. I'm gonna try to put the words together, but I would add a good therapist, and y'all may have said it. He doesn't take your side. If you're wrong, a good therapist will let you know you need to reevaluate that because you're wrong. Now, granted, situation varies by situation, but a good therapist will let you know like when you're fucking up, just like your homeboy should let you know when you're fucking up. Because some of these fuck ups can lead you down a worse path than you're already going down. That got you to his office anyway. Just my opinion.
Yeah, so you're talking about that level of objectivity. So being objective and as one would say, being values neutral, but we have to be very careful when we say values neutral. But definitely will go along the lines of objectivity. So, Ant, what's up, baby?
I don't know. How do you want me to speak on this? Because I have different experience when it comes to that. On a personal level, dealing with depression, dealing with crazy ex-wife, to dealing with military. So, and I guess what's the best way for me to talk about my experiences so I'm not just like, rambling?
So, with the compounding issues that you face, and I know you said you was kind of like mandated to go to therapy, kind of talk about what the experience was like in any capacity you want to. Crazy ex-wife, military duty, whatever. Did your therapist really help you, or did you feel like you just wasted your time?
So the first two people I went to. So my first deployment, got back, and it was a culmination of dealing with an ex-wife at that time, and also dealing with my first deployment. Deployment was 2004, 2005. Went to Iraq, and dealt with not being able to talk to family. I had my parents freaking calling Red Cross because there were times when they didn't hear from me for months on end. So they were freaking the hell out, like, what the hell is going on? How come we haven't heard from my son? And this is the beginning of, they're not the beginning of the war. And so I get back, so I have all these issues from the experiences that I saw in Iraq. And then I had this crazy ass freaking ex-wife. So it's a time frame whenever I have alcohol, I'm crying, like, why the hell am I crying? I guess alcohol just makes you kind of soft. It makes that soft soup come out.
Depends on what you're drinking, brother. Depends on what you're drinking.
and I guess that's when all my issues would come out, was when I would sit down and either I was at a bar or with people I knew or whatever the case was, I just started having these little freak out moments. And so went, and this Army mandated major, I'm not gonna say his color, doesn't really matter what color it was, but pretty much walked inside, he sat me down, he was at his desk, and the only thing his dude did the whole free time was write notes. Look at me, shake his head. Look down, write some more notes. Look at me. Like, there was no give and take. There was no, well, I think if you do this, you do that. There was no communication. It was more so just sitting there listening to me. But not at one time did he respond with anything positive or trying to understand where I was coming from. So that lasted maybe, and forgive me, this is years back, I think 2 or 3 sessions. But pretty much all he said was, "Oh, I think you just have issues dealing with your ex-wife." So a year of deployment, and that's the only he got from it. I'm going to prescribe you some medication. I don't take medication, so I took that bag, and it was no, I took Ambien. That was the first time I ever took Ambien. And second guy I went to, this was after my second deployment. Second deployment was progressively worse. Coming from the first deployment, I had a fear of, I think it's typical for any person who's a common was you get deployed, especially having deployed before. If you've seen some crazy-ish, you have the fear of, man, I really don't want to go back to what I experienced my first deployment. And so I had the fear going in, deploy, get back. And this is the time when the Army starts realizing that, okay, soldiers have PTSD. So something wrong with soldiers. Soldiers are coming back, hurting people, killing themselves. And so get back, Army does this thing. Did you see this? Did you experience that? If you circle yes or check yes to any of those questions, guess what? You're going to talk to someone. And because of what the things I circled, if I experienced this or saw that, to put little meat to my discussion. So some of the questions they asked, did you see people get hurt, whether it be soldier, whether it be a national, and you write there was some fill in the blank, some circle questions. And of course, the unit that I was part of, 173rd Airborne. If people don't know, ever heard about 173rd, watch Korengal Valley, watch Estrepo. That was my unit. So, watch people get hurt, body parts, you name it, blah, blah, blah. So answer these questions. They sent me to another guy, another freaking Army therapist, whatever you want to call him. Same thing. This guy was kind of receptive. He kind of answered some questions and a little dialogue, but not much. End of the day, well, if you're having problems sleeping, here's some more medication. So I'm like, all right, same shit, different day. And then it wasn't until I got out of the Army and I was in DC, and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, my current wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was like, no, you need to go see someone. I had issues. I couldn't sleep. I was jumping up. I was whatever, it was affecting her pretty much. And so I finally go see someone where I was working at in DC, and it was a lady, very receptive. Wanted to communicate, wanted to find out what the problem started, all the issues issues and stuff I was experiencing, and she was very receptive. Great woman. It took me like months for me to actually open that freaking door to want to talk to her. And eventually she warmed up to my heart. I opened up to her and I talked to her, and she didn't want to do medication because she knew don't like medication. She knew things I didn't like, stuff I wanted to do. She actually built a base trying to figure out who is Anthony from A to Z. Very thorough, great communication skills. And she understood very heavily that I said not only no, but a hell no to want to prescribe medication to solve the issues. And so the biggest thing was just talking and trying to build rapport with me. And this woman I greatly appreciated because she helped break down barriers. But the other two guys hated them. So 2 bad experiences versus 1 great experience.
Absolutely. Appreciate you sharing that. The one thing I want to point out, Toya, the only woman on this call, right? And so she holding her own weight. And the reason why I bring that up is you had 2 grown men that gave you piss poor therapy. And it took a woman to come in to get you to the place where you need to be. And I think that's important because all these grown men on this call right now, this should be a signal and a red light to us to say, hey, we got to get our stuff together. It should not take a woman to come in and support this grown man the way that he needs to be supported, especially with the exposure and the experiences that he had. And so, Toya, I definitely want to say thank you for, getting on and being amongst the brothers and bringing that.
Thank you.
What you got?
Me? So if everybody who don't know besides Camp and Rich, so I met Rich in the barracks up in Belvoir and Camp at Belvoir as well. And so my life pretty much started early, 19, having kids and getting married. Didn't know what I was doing. So Rich always had my back. Camp did too. Camp, he introduced me to, he told me to go to therapy for marriage counseling because that's something he was doing at the time. And we went there, you know, and you feel like sometimes people not with you. So they don't understand why you do the things you do or how you act. And then I know I was classified as OCD, and which was fine. But then after a while, I just stopped going because I was like, man, if I want to change, I'll change. And I'd go on with that. And recently, months ago, you know, me and Rich always stayed in contact, but it's been months ago where he called me and he told me to help him. But lo and behold, I think the roles got reversed and he started helping me. You know, shout out to the free therapists out there when they're your friends. So. But just going with that, and Rich really been my therapist, man. So I'm still talking to him today, pretty much every day. He's just been giving me some good information. It's almost like this man, he like, all right, he like Ant said, but he knows me. And it took a while because, you know, the more questions you ask, the more interaction you have, you realize how much of you actually start to suppress because you're trying to live, you know, a facade pretty much, and you're not really realizing it because you think things should be this way, but they're not. And just talking to Camp too, you know, even though he angry a lot, but he tell me how it is and it get on my nerves, but I still go with it. Like those two dudes is like, I know they got my back. So that's my 2 cents right now.
I appreciate it, brother. One of the things you said, and I'm gonna paraphrase because it kind of stick out, is support encouragement from your brother. Like Rich and Camp really, you know, inserted themselves into your life, man, and say, hey, you need to do this. Or you know, shout out to Rich for being a good therapist and saying, hey, bro, you know, I'm gonna support you for the free, you know. And these are things that we need. I asked one of my homeboys, I said, have you ever noticed that like when Black people have struggles in their life, we don't have people we can call to handle certain problems. So if I needed a lawyer, like when I got into some legal trouble back early on in college, I didn't have a family member or somebody I could connect to that was an attorney to help me get out of it. And so we had to make phone call after phone call. Luckily, I had a homeboy that was a police officer who said, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. And he did. But, you know, these are the things that we lack, having people connected to us that we can depend on. Some of our brothers and sisters that don't look like us, they have a, you know, family pediatrician, family attorney, a family this, a family that. So if something happens, they're like, okay, call, you know, Dr. Such and Such, they're going to get us straight. And it's like, it's going to happen immediately. And these are the things that we need, you know, we need to do. So to my African brother up there, what's your 2 cents?
Well, okay. So I first time going to therapy was after was coming down here to Port Hueneme after 9 years and 11 months in the military. The Navy said I didn't do 10 years, but fuck them anyway. So I have always been against therapy, right? And I'm gonna say point blank, I've always been against, and because of what we talked about previously.
Tell them what we talked about, because it's going to lead us to what we're gonna go to next. It's important to understand why he said he was against therapy. So
born and raised in Africa, came to America when I was like 18 years old. Like literally born and raised in Africa, as the blackest you can come, right? There's nothing like therapy back home, right? I wish somebody would tell me I'm wrong. Like there was nothing like therapy back home. The only therapist you have is yourself, and probably your dad or your mom telling you to shut up. You know, so it's like there's nothing. There's no form of you gonna walk while I'm talking. Yes, yeah. You will. There was no form of therapy, right? So everything has been balled in. Like you always trying to figure things out. Even though you have friends, you don't really talk to friends because you don't know if they are for your best interest, or like there's always an if. That's what, when it comes to at least what growing up, that's what it was. There was nothing like, all right, okay, Anthony got my back, so let me talk to Anthony about this, right? So it took a while for me to actually build up a circle of friends that I can actually talk to about things, because my mind, Anthony would tell you, or Kemp would tell you, my mind is always running about some things, right? So when after my last tour here, it was getting too much for me. there was a lot like coupled with my officer in charge and other people. There was just things just bottling in. So I just walked to one lady. She's a psychologist. So I walked up to her. I was like, I need to talk to you. Well, I'm gonna let you know from the beginning. I don't like you, but I feel like I have to talk to you. I told her point blank because I had to be frank with her so that she wouldn't have any expectations. I was like, I know you're gonna help me, but I'm gonna build a wall. I have this huge wall when it comes to you guys because I don't know why I should come talk to you, but I feel like I got to talk to you. Right. So it's like an oxymoron, like I'm literally going against what I'm about to do. So started talking to her, and honestly speaking, she was one of the first person to actually listen to me. All right. She just literally, I think I was there from 2 to 3 o'clock, just went, and all she said was, oh, really? Okay. Oh, geez. Okay. That's bad. Can we do this again? Literally, that's what she said. Like she just listened. So a day after she comes to my office and she goes, I got a report if you want to listen to it. And we went back to the office and we talked about it. And it's been so awesome that even though I'm out now, I still contact them and talk about regular things, right? So I've only had 2. The other one when I got out, VA, piece of shit. Excuse my English again. Do you guys have a list of things that you guys have to ask? And when the person is talking about something, you don't give a shit. You just have to ask those questions.
Just if they don't want you to be able to go home that night.
No, because he kept asking the question. He kept asking. I felt like it's just a checklist. Like in the military, when you go to see and they go, "Oh, did you do yes or no?" Yeah, it's all yes or no. It might be a no, but based on how you ask the question, I have to say yes. But he doesn't care. He just go, okay, I asked you this. Now is it a yes or no? I'm like, dude, I can't say yes or no because it's like it's a loaded question. So my first session didn't go well with him. Second session, say he wanted to go back to the same question. I kept telling him, I don't know if you ever met somebody that's hot-headed as I am. If you're not listening to me, we're gonna hit. It's gonna be a crossroad. Like we're gonna part ways. Long story short, we parted ways. I'm supposed to meet another one tomorrow and talk to him, but my experience with therapists, like the first person that I ever talked to, she was just awesome. And trust me, you guys are good. You guys are doing a very good job. For if an African like me can understand you, trust me. You guys.
I appreciate that, bro. One of the common denominators that I hear is women in therapy. And these women therapists that are really getting us grown men together and helping us get our life together. But before I move on, I know Rich and Toya was about to say something. I want to talk about like this checklist situation. And so, Rich, I want you to start us off. Like, do you have a checklist, bro, that you got to check off, when you start a therapy session? And I know that for those that don't know, I know you have to do a psychosocial assessment in the beginning. So those typical things sometimes have yes or no. But let's talk about that. And Toya, be ready.
Yeah, there is. Your normal intake form will ask those questions to kind of give us an idea as a therapist where you're at mentally. And I know the hot button questions that they're talking about, are you homicidal or have you have homicidal or suicidal thoughts? Well, as a therapist, you're not supposed to just dive into it and say, oh, wait, they had homicidal thoughts, and then go call whoever you need to call to get them situated. You're supposed to explore it with them once they actually come and talk to you to see that may have happened 10 years ago, or that may have been something that they were thinking as a book or something. They may be creative. It's just one of those things that you really have to take your time to explore before you just kind of jump off to it. And typically with those questionnaires, it should never come off as feeling like they're just asking you a question or being objective. It's supposed to be a fluid conversation. Not, do you have these thoughts? Yes or no, or this or that. Let's talk about it a little bit. Tell me what the thoughts were about, and like, what did you do, and how did you resolve it, or is it still something going on today? And then give them that platform to have that conversation, but also letting them know that you do have a duty to warn, and that if you feel like it's something that they need to go and get checked out, and then you'll walk them through the process. It's not something that, well, let me call somebody to drag you out of my office or drag you from home. I'm walking you through it because I'm genuinely concerned about your well-being as well. So I use a checklist, but it's not. You would never know that I'm using a checklist.
Toy.
Same, I agree. For me, my beginning experience as a therapist was primarily with children. So, of course, as you know, with children, you have to explain literally every single thing that you do. So, throughout the populations that I've worked with, I've made it my practice to explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So, I open the door for questions to be asked to me about the process, so I can explain to my clients so they can be comfortable in the process. Because at the end of the day, the client has the right to know what's going on behind the scenes of their treatment. So with that being said, when it comes down to going over a checklist, I make sure to explain, this is what I'm going over. This is why I'm going over it. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And I also don't speed through or jump over certain areas, especially areas where we need to take more time for. When I was doing residential treatment, I would make sure to carve out enough time to have with my client, because yes, you have your director, your program manager, or your whoever saying, oh, well, you only have 30 minutes to complete this hour-long assessment. But at the same time, when a person is talking about their personal life and their personal experience, it demands more than 30 minutes. And if my supervisor, whoever have a problem with that, we'll talk about it afterwards. If my session go long on the behalf of my client getting the treatment that they need, it is what it is. And I just have to deal with that.
Absolutely. So what comes to mind is this idea of, is there a time limit to these assessments and to these questions? And so what I'm hearing is you need to take your time with it. As you know, and when I was doing counseling work and doing assessments, I would skip over some questions and come back to them when I felt necessary and felt like that was the avenue for it. Because if I'm talking about your childhood and go immediately to suicide, you're gonna look at me like, sir, what the hell wrong with you?
Right.
What that got to do with anything? And so as a clinician, you need to make sure that you understand the process, understand what you need to be asking, but really understanding who you're dealing with on the other side of your desk, of your clipboard, or whatever it is that you have. So you can really walk them through the process and letting people know, yo, this is what's going on. They got a right to know really what's going on through this process. And rapport building starts in the beginning. And so if I don't have a relationship with you, I'm not about to talk about my childhood. I'm not about, even if I want to kill somebody yesterday, you ain't gonna know about it. Even if I got thoughts to slap the shit out you right now, you probably ain't gonna know about it right now. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I'm ready to tell you that. So, you know, we gotta, as clinicians, we gotta be careful about how we deal with people. And I don't want to use a word like our clients because it feels so far detached, but how we deal with, you know, in this relationship, in this collaborative relationship. But I want to circle back just a little bit and talk about these images. And so my African brother really talked about, like, coming from Africa, like mental health wasn't a thing. Like, you're not coming in and saying, yo, I need help. And he went through some stuff. And so my question is, you know, are there enough people that look like us in the field? And why is it important for people that look like us to be in the field? So whoever wants to talk.
I want to talk. Last week, I actually had a conversation with my mom, and she heard a statistic while she was watching some program. And that statistic was that there are only 4% of Black therapists in the field. So if you're talking about 4% of all therapists, that's 96% of non-Black therapists in the world. So yes, it's definitely a demand for more of us, especially with the I don't want to say difficulties, but challenges that we're facing, especially A, in this time, and B, outside of this whole televised movement as well, because a lot of things that we've experienced for a very long time, and we have suffered in silence for a very long time, and we have a lot of enduring remnants of everything that we've went through. So with that being said, definitely we need more of us in the field because it's only 4% of us.
I'd like to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
So
My bad.
what Toya said, but also now we're breaking it down, getting to your family roots, where, like you said, everything, you pretty much got your life formed at age 8. So everything you heard was stop crying, man up, do this, do that, just keep pushing through. So by the time you get 18, 19, 20, nobody even care about therapy at that point, because I'm not going to go explore this field because I don't want to do this. I just want to shoot ball. This is my therapy. So it's not necessarily saying that you're trying to help somebody else. It's kind of hard to help somebody else because you haven't identified your problem yet. And not you, like for me, I'm identifying my problem now. I'm 28 when, with the help of Rich and also Camp. But you're not thinking like that at those ages, So now when you go to college, it's always something different, or it's a party. It's something else. And when you maybe go back to your own place and you got time to really mentally think for yourself, you just don't want to do it because it actually hurts so much. So therefore, you just say, whatever, man, I'm going to just do this and get my mind off of it. So your family need to recognize that you need to tell people, stop. Tell people, go ahead and cry. It's okay. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to support you because that's what we need. Not know, shut up, man. Keep moving. Go clean your room now, But that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So I got a response to that too, with what Hardy just said. And I agree with everything you just said. The hardest thing though is when you raise in a culture where your parents went through so much heartache and pain trying to get to where they are and get you to where you're on your own feet. And then like my parents coming from segregation, coming from crops being burned when they were kids in their own yard. So when they tell you to don't cry, be a man. Don't shed no tears. Keep your problems to yourself. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard when you go off into the world and you want to open your mouth and say what's bothering you, what the problem is, but you don't know how to because as a child, you're raised to not express yourself. And so that turns into anger. You don't have the proper social skills to even know how to come to someone and say, hey, I got an issue, I need to talk to someone. And it wasn't until now, like I keep a very tight knit crew around me, and it's not. I think it's more so fear of judgment, and initially, but then as I actually build a stronger bond with people, I tend to open up more. And this wasn't the case 5-8 years ago. 5-8 years ago, I kept all my issues to myself, and it wasn't until I had that first female professional that I want to talk to when I actually started saying, okay, I can go start talking to people. Just like, it was sad to when I had to wake up in the morning times and have one beer. And I think that's when I started realizing that, okay, I got a problem because I had to wake up and have some type of alcohol. It was mainly beer. When you sit in your room by yourself and you're drinking a whole freaking 12 pack of beer by yourself, that's my framework. I'm good. I got this. I'm straight now. That's the problem. And it's because I think within our culture.
You judging me? I just drank a quarter bottle. A little bit more.
Yes, we judge.
Don't judge me.
No, but
it's a judgment-free zone.
Not with him.
I'll judge you later, man. No, but it's hard within our culture to come from an area where your parents have dealt with so much stress, and they're telling you to be strong when they themselves are trying to be strong because they're dealing with all the stuff they're dealing with, and then everybody within your own community, especially when you grew up in a whole Black community, and everyone you talked to, the barbershops, everywhere you went was all Black, and everybody has the same mentality. That's what you know. And so to be an adult and you want me to do what now? Talk to you? Who the hell are you? Why am I sharing my blood, sweat, and tears, all my problems with someone I don't even know? Come to realize that's probably the easiest and best thing that you can do. There's no judgment there. It's just like Hardy, like you were saying, just to open up and talk to someone. That's hard. It's extremely hard.
So, yeah, I agree. It's hard and everything. Hardy knows how my household, how I would run my household. See, like kids cry. It's okay to cry. I just don't want to hear it. Go upstairs. And then when you're done, you can come back. You want a hug? I'll give you a hug all day long. I just don't want to hear the cry. And I feel like that's okay. I can see why it's not, but I feel like it's okay. But I don't know. It's just something about it's confusing because when we meet spouses and the idea of having somebody you're supposed to be able to share everything with, but yet in reality, you keep so much from it, that alone will drive you insane. Go ahead, Hardy.
So part of that though is the growing up factor, is because you see so much, everybody getting a divorce. So what you preparing for when you get married? You preparing for the divorce.
50%.
So it's like, all right, well, hey, and then you go talk to your parents who really don't know nothing, and then you kind of realize, man, y'all been together, y'all still jacked up. And then they, because daddy saying this while mama ain't around, and mama saying this while dad ain't around. So everybody just preparing for that day, and it's like, why did I even get married? Because I had a kid, or I thought it was the right thing to do, and lo and behold, you never knew yourself. So now you just cycling the problem over through your kid.
But in relation to therapy, though, it's like eliminate all those factors of what you see when you're growing up with your parents. I'm talking about when you find somebody that you think you're in love with, even if it's just a thought and not really the emotion coming out, and you and that person have to know certain intimate details about each other, but yet you're not comfortable giving some of these intimate details about yourself to that person. That alone should be your spouse. In my opinion, your spouse should be some form of therapy. Maybe like still go see a therapist. I'm all about therapy now, but still go see a therapist. But your spouse should be some form of therapy to comfort. And maybe not therapy, not the word. It should be some form of comfort. But
Definitely.
and today it seems like your spouse is the reason your ass go to therapy.
I want to jump in on this. And this is why it's so important, like JT said, was imagery. Two things I hold important. One thing that every therapist should hold important is know yourself, know your biases, know who you are as an individual before going into a session. Some of you all might have dealt with racist therapists who, because of their job title, you had to see them. And so they did certain things to you that they shouldn't have done. Or they may have heard you did X, Y, and Z and may have this bias against the military or a bias against you as a Black person, and they should have never been in the session with you. So that's therapy rule number one, the golden rule. Know yourself, know your biases, know what you can and cannot tolerate. If you don't like rapists, you should probably not be working with one as far as in the therapeutic environment. My rule two is multiculturalism. I'm all about within content. Everybody's culture is different, from African American to European American to Africans to Caribbean people. We all come from different backgrounds. And so if I'm going to invest in you as a therapist, I need to understand your culture within your content, which is why, working with individuals like you all, I come from a similar background. So I know what that content look like. I know how our households operate and how a lot of dysfunction that was our norm is dysfunctional. But the gift that gives me is I know how to talk to you about it where it's not coming off as offensive. I'm letting you know that, bro, I understand. I may laugh with you, talk about those times where, lights were off and we were drinking water from the water hose or bathing with the water hose. But I understood that, and I understand that to help you as a client or as someone that's seeing me for treatment. I won't make you feel bad about that or make you feel shameful of that opportunity. During that time of your life. If anything, I may show you the opportunities that you gain from those moments within your life and help you to move forward within your life. That's why when JT,
I got a question for you, Rich. So I was doing what I do yesterday, and I started writing something, and in the middle of me writing it out, I was wondering, like I put in there like straight up questions, and we got somebody that's actually watching right now. His name is JC, and he brought up something that I wrote down yesterday. He said therapists need therapists too, and now I'm gonna say for Black, like because pretty much this is what's going on is Black mental health, with therapists needing therapy, and y'all, whether you relate, and even for those that can't really relate, but having the knowledge or the know-how or the education to sit and talk to people openly it's kind of like if you need help, how can't you help me? Like I get it, I get it. But I mean, like kind of like a million. If you're not a millionaire, you can't teach me how to be a millionaire. You know what I mean? And so, but on the same token, like I said, I get it because you're sitting there listening to how many people a day. You know, it stresses you out. You know, you got your own personal issues. It stresses you out. You know, you got your own household issues, your own spousal issues. It stresses you out. So on those aspects, I get it. But it's kind of like if you're a therapist and you need therapy based off of something that, and you can relate. Because for me, my niche is I don't go see therapists that I can relate to. Because if you relate to me, you likely can't challenge the way I think. Because I probably already thought some shit that you thought. But if you ain't never met me before and you lived a completely different life, I can maybe wake your eyes up, like open your eyes up and say, this is what's going on in the world. This is what kids are having to grow up with and deal with when they're adults, as well as challenge you personally for you to help me. Like, how would you help somebody as broken as I am? You know? Like, so I got a million questions for therapists because y'all trip me out.
I want to jump in so bad.
Go ahead and say I just want to help him out.
All right, but before Toya gets started, Kent, we've been in discussion over this weekend in between the three of us, and so we're gonna help your ass out. So go ahead, Toya.
Oh boy.
So to start with the topic of therapists needing therapists, right? Therapists do need therapists too, correct? That's absolutely 100% correct. For me as a therapist, I would encourage all therapists to seek therapy prior to becoming a therapist, prior to becoming an active therapist. So your own personal wounds can be addressed and can be, de-escalated. Ongoing therapy as a therapist is not necessarily about issues of the therapist. It's more so about compassion fatigue, right? Because from my personal therapeutic journey, I've secondhand experienced a lot with the population that I work with. So with that being said, my therapy is speaking about different situations, whereas I've lost clients. I've had 3 clients to die. One was killed, and 2 overdosed. So that was a lot. I just had some of those people. I just had, I had a therapeutic rapport with them. So of course, me being human at the end of the day, outside of being a therapist, I still think about these people. I still wonder if I could have done something or said something differently. So yeah, I'm gonna need somebody to talk about that too. And I have that. So when it comes to therapists needing therapists, it's basically to address that situation, the secondhand trauma and the compassion fatigue. The second thing I want to touch on is why is it hard or difficult to share things that are going on with you with your partner? And this is the analogy that I want to use. When you get into a serious accident and you are injured, it's easier to talk about your injuries once you're healed, correct or incorrect?
Incorrect.
Incorrect? You stop playing with me. It's typically easier. It's typically easier to talk about your injury once it's already healed because you've gone through the trauma of the actual incident. Hopefully you've dealt with that trauma and now you're more open to talk to it. When you're still harboring old wounds, of course it's hard to talk about because you haven't even unbagged it, unwrapped it, and processed it yet. It's not even healed yet. So of course it's going to be hard to talk to your partner about it. And the next thing I want to go into is talking about how we were raised and as children, how we weren't necessarily raised in environments or in households that were emotionally educated, right? So with that being said, that's been a huge part of my professional work is developing spaces where parents can learn how to be emotionally available and emotionally intelligent. So we can raise children who are emotionally intelligent, because at the end of the day, we have a commitment to ourselves, to heal ourselves. It's not about the people around us, the person we marry to, the person we with, the children who we birth. Yes, they're going to benefit from our healing, but it is our commitment to ourselves to be healed. And one last thing, shameless plug. I actually wrote a children's book entitled When I'm Mad, right? And it's to introduce that conversation of coping skills and that conversation of emotional regulation to children. And that book is available on www.whenimmad.com. Thank you, y'all, for listening.
There it is.
Hey, Tori, we appreciate that, man. Listen, I'm not mad at the shameless plug. Go grab her book. On Facebook, I was like, oh snap, she's the author. Okay, bet. Before we get too far, because there's something that Ant has to do, and we will not end this call without him getting that out, but I don't want to add it just yet. But what I do want to bring up, last week, Camp kind of threw out there, he was like, yeah, go ahead and send it to JT and Toya. And so what Camp sent us, or what Rich sent us, what we call that manifesto. And so I'm not going to go into detail with it, but Camp, what I will tell you is that we wrestled with it over the weekend. I know myself specifically, I just took a day to wrestle with it and to read it. I think I was the last one to read it. So to just kind of get us started with that, because we're going to dedicate just a little bit of time to it, not much. But when I read it, the first thing I said was, huh?
I said we only got like 10, 12 minutes left anyway.
Yeah, we've been to ride through this, I promise you, because it's two things that I got to get to before we get off, and it's one of them. But and I want Toya and Rich to kind of get in and really kind of speed it up. But when I read it, I was like, oh snap, he finna kill himself. Like, that's what I thought. Like, oh, it's over. It's over with. Like, what's going on? But the beautiful part about it was the graphic and the imagery and the motivation.
Yes.
Like, that was the beauty of it. And so for somebody who's not competent and who don't understand, that would have been like, it's over. He need to be Baker acted. Like, this is it. You know what I mean? Michael Jackson, this is it. But, you know, I'm going to leave it at that. Toya and Rich, go ahead.
I'll jump right in. It was beautiful. It definitely was beautiful. When I first opened it, I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? But no, like reading through it, because I want to say it was 5 pages. Yeah. It was so profound. It was so profound that it was like poetic in a sense.
Yeah.
It's really a gift to have that much self-awareness and so deeply know yourself, because honestly, a lot of people, when they first start the therapeutic journey, they don't have that about themselves. They don't know themselves that deeply. So what you wrote was just phenomenal. I don't even have the words for it. It needs to be published because I do feel like it would be beneficial to a lot of people, because you can read it as, you know, a suicide note or what have you, but you can also read it as a rebirth. It reminded me of a phoenix, because, you know, the phoenix, you know, comes out of the ashes, you know, into a phoenix, you know, burns up, comes out into a phoenix, something beautiful and something powerful and something mythical. So with that being said, I just think that having that gift to be able to acknowledge and know who you are and put that down and just craft that was just phenomenal for me.
I agree. Of course, I was one of the first people to read it, and I'm like, first reaction, let me call Camp. Hold on. Read first.
Right.
And as I read it, most people know I'm very spiritual. And I see things for what they are. And that's why I kind of let things kind of go. But for me, this was a person that knew themselves, like Toy said, so deeply. They know who they are. and they know that they can push the limits to a lot of things, but they know their environment, they know their situation, they know the people that they deal with. It's almost like, what do you do when you know that you're not almost, but philosophically speaking, indestructible? Where do you find purpose in all of that? And that's what I kind of got from it. It's like, even though Kemp knew how to push the limits, and he often does push the limits, but Kemp knows his own limits internally and is purpose driven. And so for me, it was just like, wow. And one of the things that I tell everybody about it is that this is one of the few people in this world, which shows me how gifted you are, that says something about me that haven't really met me face to face, but saw me, transparently saw me, to the point when I read it, it took me back. Like it floored me to finally say, hey, someone see you soul through and through, not physically see you, not I understand you, not let me put you into my content, but see the person that I am. And even with our other homeboy, just seeing us, it says, okay, no, this guy has a gift that is phenomenal, and he knows it, but how do we get him to share it with the rest of the world?
Great question. So I'm finna answer that for everybody on this call.
Real quick. Hardy is probably the only other person that read it besides.
Okay.
Hardy's on. Anthony and George, they ain't read it. George, you ain't gonna read it, but yeah.
All right, go ahead, Hardy. We got a little bit of time.
You see?
Oh no, I'm listening right now. I thought about calling him, but I know Camp too, so I wasn't too much worried about it. But I'm just calling. I'm the concerned friend who called you at 3:00 in the morning because I was thinking about it.
That is. Hardy's gonna call you if you say you sneezing. Hardy's gonna call you and be like, "Are you all right? You not dying? You good?"
So, quiet as a Camp. Me and Rich debated whether you were Hancock or David Hoggins. Like, we'll go back about which one you were. But here's the deal, right? I told you I wrestled with it over the weekend, and what I did was I said I'm gonna dedicate a day to it. And so we talked about helping, right? And so as Black men, bro, this is one of the ways that I'm gonna help you. So what I did was I didn't how can I put this? So, long story short, bro, I'm gonna help you start your book. So what I did was I crafted about 1,500 words, which is a little bit half of what it is. But what I did was I added in some guiding questions for you. I did a little bit of language change based on our conversations that help kind of present it in a way that's readable and not so alarming. But I didn't want to take away the authenticity of what you have. And so I'm going to email that to you once we get off so you can see what I did. And what I want to do also is I want to encourage Rich and Toya to add in some additional guiding questions to help Camp really get through this, because the reason why we didn't go into detail about it is because the folks need something to read, and this might just be a bestseller. So I'm not going to
all facts.
Right.
I appreciate y'all.
So we got that. It's cooking. I told y'all we had some cooking. Black people understand this right here. This is how we help one another. Like, we team up, we collaborate, we cooperate, and we come together to make sure people have what they need. So, Cam, you can no longer say that you bored, you ain't got nothing to do. Boy, you got plenty to do with what I'm about to teach you. And you got plenty of help to get you. But before, without that though, moving forward a little bit, let me just say it this way. We talked about writing, and I know a lot of people journal, they write, and this is probably going to be the therapeutic process for Camp as he get through what we call a manifesto, what he may name whatever. Oh, and then the side note, bro, I put in about 5 or 6 different book titles just to generate some ideas. You don't have to use none of the names of them, but I just threw some titles out there that resonated with me to help guide you through that process or whatever you want to name it. But I said that to say this right here. Anthony talked about something. He put it in the private chat, but he writes poetry. And so before we get off this call, I said, you know, we're gonna go over that. And so he's gonna share with us what he's written some time ago before we get off, because this is gonna help somebody.
And Anthony is a great poet. I just want to put that out there.
Thank you. No, this is something when I was a kid, my dad was very stern, hardcore upbringing. He dealt with a lot as a kid. So now as a grown man, I understand a lot of his issues and problems, and I know where he came from. I don't agree with a lot, but I know where he came from. So as a kid, what I would do with my anger, my sadness, my pain is I wrote poetry. And that's something that to this day, I strongly do, and I believe in a lot. So this is I do poetry / short stories. And the rules to my poetry, as I tell people, is it's open to interpretation, but without question. It's for you to sit back and listen. And you can have your own interpretation, let your mind free, listen, and let the story flow. So this one is called Life. Too often, the body becomes accustomed to pain and all of its variations. The mind plays tricks while the heart goes to war. The soul yearns to breathe in life while death hides and waits to knock on the front door. So where do I find myself? Perfectly placed in the middle of everything, yet not exactly balanced. Life is a choice. Life is a choice society has granted me with, but forgot to include the directions. Blow smoke up my ass and tell me to live with limitations. If I had a chance to do it all over again, I would say, fuck that limitation. Fuck that invitation. Life.
Okay.
Dope, bro. Dope.
So I actually have full of stuff that I write. But yeah, that's what I do. Of many things, what I do.
This
That's
man,
awesome.
Anthony,
That's awesome, for real.
Anthony and Hardy, the Black Tim the Two Man Taylors. These motherfuckers, they do everything. They stick, they paint, you name it. But they're also two of the most artistic people that I've known in my life too. Because whatever they do, they put complete passion in it, and nothing less. Nothing less than their all. Even when it's ugly, it's beautiful. And I appreciate them. You got two male role models of father figures that I've always envied, to be honest with you. I've always envied just to love their kids that much. And their families. And no matter what the struggle is, they don't show anything. They don't skip a beat. But until you know them, then you know how shitty they really feel. And what I've learned about society, which honestly fucking sucks, is you're forced to hide it. You there's no choice. Go ahead, Al.
I'm listening.
Hey, I was saying one thing. One thing I always tell people when I see people down and out and trying to figure life out, and they live a life for something else or for someone else, I tell them, you can't make someone else happy until you yourself have made yourself happy.
Yes.
But what if you're never happy?
And I want to that.
How'd you know you never?
I want to say that's why therapists see other therapists. It's almost like individuals go to the gym and work out. We go to make sure that we're good within ourselves, within our practice, because as we were talking earlier about good therapy and bad therapy, and I know you're running out of time, but you don't ever want a therapist to project how they're feeling or their life onto you in a session, because they may be going through something and they haven't checked their mental yet coming into the office. So they're bringing their baggage into your session and they dumping it on you. And you're like, wait, dang, I felt like I was a therapist in the session. You probably were, but you paid them. Just, knowing your limitations. And then the last thing that Anthony said in his poem, fuck limitations. I think that's the biggest thing in life is you create your own limitations. Remove any fears or anything that someone else has placed upon you. You create it. And have people around you to help you bust that fear. It's too often I tell my boys, Camp, JT, and even Miles, be you. Express your anger, Hardy. Express your anger, because out of that anger comes passion. It comes something great. Something like this platform, something like the art that Hardy create, something like the book that JT is working on. You know, it comes out in a way that it should come out. And it's just really redirecting that energy into something that is way more beautiful, instead of just sitting there and saying, well, I'm just angry. Be angry, but be angry intentionally and be angry with purpose.
I know we over our time, but Camp, since Hardy is one of the new members on here, I would like for him to give our parting words.
Oh wait, I ain't new, dog. I've been up here.
Well, I mean, you know me, dog.
Hey, see, and that's what you call a whole Negro right there.
You know this session.
Yeah, Hardy, I do, Hardy. It would be great for you to close this out, but I do want to put out there, Hardy has been one working in the background. He's been one working in the background since before my accident. Hardy's been working in the background since 2013, and he know what I mean by that. Anthony's been in the background since 2016, and he know what I know by that. So the circle that I keep is a tight circle, and it will always be a tight circle, because I just don't let nobody in. If you ain't worth the shit, you ain't getting in, and you will be found out. So Hardy, if you would bless me with some closing remarks, I would appreciate it.
You ain't gonna listen to me?
Nope.
So I plan on coming up here, which I've been coming up here every week. Last week I didn't come up here. I needed some time to myself, and that was part of my therapy right there. But just continue to, as we continue to go on, we just continue to be open about things we're talking, things that's going on in our life. Be open and make sure you have that good group of friends. Rich, Haynes, if you don't got a free therapist, I suggest you get one, but make sure they're good. But just we got to continue to lift up each other and listen to each other. Really, stop trying to put your 2 cents in everything before you see the whole picture. So I guess next week, same bat time, 7:30.
7:30 your time.
7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, 4:30 out here in Cali. Jason, I do appreciate you watching the whole thing. You've watched a long time. And again, I do apologize for saying he earlier when it's she. And I hope you tune in for the next episode. We really do appreciate it.
Hey, Ed, I'm going to have to get with you with these forms. I got me some too. So, y'all have a good one.
All right.
I'm big into supporting us and wanting us to grow. Wealth is us loving ourselves and helping each other out. And I do photography. If you ever need my help for something or interest, let me know. I'm definitely down to help.
We need all help.
All right. One last thing. This is some of Hardy work. I don't know if y'all can see this, but he created these coasters.
In Hawaii.
So
Yeah, Hoy.
I just wait.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. I like that.
Yeah.
I don't even have those. Anthony,
So I am.
bro? Tell them your photography thing, where they can follow you at.
Yeah.
Right now, you can follow me on Instagram at s.a.more_photography at Instagram. Yeah. On Instagram.
I'll put it in the link. Don't worry about it. I appreciate it.
Yeah. While we at it, man, make sure you go follow Edifying Empower on Facebook and Instagram. That's what a Do Better message is. Shout out to the hat. One of my partners just got his, so make sure you go get on the brand, get on the message, man. Follow me, Edifying Empower, and go on the site, man, edifyingempower.com to grab your Do Better merch.
Okay.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it again. Can't wait to see y'all next week.
All
Hey,
right.
wait. Ain't you got to send me their stuff. And, Camp, send me Ant stuff because y'all was talking about.
You'll get on the email, bro. You'll get everybody about to get an email right now.
See,
All right,
Thanks,
see,
friend.
I'll see y'all next week. Bye.
yeah.
Wakanda forever.